Good afternoon, Emmitsburg. I'd like to introduce my guest today on our mayor's podcast, Ron Siarnicki. He's the executive director of the National Fallen Firefighters Foundation. Ron, welcome to Emmitsburg. Again, you live here occasionally.
That is true. It's always a pleasure to drive up to Emmitsburg and spend some time with NETC and the fire administration, of course, the town and yourself, Mr. Mayor. This is home to us because of the National Fallen Firefighters Memorial and our offices being here. So it's always good to come up through the mountains.
Well, it's great. Can you tell us a little bit about the foundation and this is a big weekend coming up on October 8th and 9th and through the 9th, and tell us a little bit about that and then the foundation, please.
Absolutely. So actually, the National Fallen Firefighters Foundation was created in 1992. A good friend of the Fire Service, Senator Paul Sarbanes, wanted to create a nonprofit entity to run the National Memorial Service, which had been run by the United States Fire Administration before that. And of course, the difficulties with a government program is that they could not raise the funds, for example, to cover travel costs for the families and all the other elements. It's a government entity. It's understood. And so the problem was back then, we as a nation would invite families to the memorial service each year, but then tell them, oh, by the way, you got to pay your own way to get here. And Senator Sarbanes just didn't think that was right. And so he enacted legislation, a public law, to create the foundation as a nonprofit, 501c3,
Right.
registered with the Internal Revenue Service in the state of Maryland, so we could fundraise and we could get corporate sponsors and other means of resources to cover the cost for the families to come here. And that really created the birth of a variety of programs, because not only do we honor every firefighter who dies in line of duty each October, but we care for the families of the fallen firefighters from the time that the death is first reported for as long as they need us in order to ensure they find whatever that new level of normalcy might be as they put their lives back together after having lost their firefighter tragically. And the intent is to build a program of services that helps them put it all back. And so that's the main purpose of the foundation: to honor the fallen and help the families of the fallen firefighters to rebuild their lives.
How many firefighters will be honored this year?
So this year is unique. We've had an increase in the number of firefighter fatalities over the past year. You know, it's interesting because in 2004 we started a program called Everyone Goes Home, and it was intended to reduce firefighter deaths and injuries. And based on the criteria of what was classified as a line of duty death back then, over the last 19 years, we've seen almost a 40% reduction in the number of firefighter fatalities based on that criteria. But unfortunately, as the world changed, 9/11 hit. And so we see a lot of firefighters who have been affected with World Trade Center disease, whether it's cardiac or it's lung related. They have had cancers and other illnesses as a result of their response to the World Trade Center collapse. So that's increased the numbers. It changed the criteria a little bit. We've also had the inclusion of general cancers because it's been a big awareness program. The carcinogens that we face fighting fires has now been attributed to many firefighter cancers. I think there's a total of 48 different cancers that are attributed to firefighting these days. And then we have COVID. There's been nearly 200 firefighter deaths due to COVID. And as those cases are reviewed to find out if they contracted to COVID while performing services or if they were off duty, that has increased the criteria. So this year we're at 148 fallen firefighters will be added to the memorial October 9th. The Memorial Weekend, of course, is 7, 8, 9, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. But it'll be 148 that'll be added.
Wow, that's incredible. you're going to change the date to the spring starting next year. Is that correct? And
That is, so that has been an issue for us for some time. The memorial has always been held in October, always tied to Fire Prevention Week. The difficulty that has been identified over the years is one, the weather. As the town of Emmitsburg knows, in October, it could be beautiful sunny days or it could snow. And we've had both of those.
right.
We've had 90-degree weather where we had honor guard and other firefighters passing out from the heat. And we've had snowstorms where I can remember sitting on the stage trying to stay warm long enough to get through the program with snowflakes falling.
Mhm.
So we decided that that was a factor. But the other piece is because we're on a federal facility, we're on the National Emergency Training Center grounds, which is where the memorial is and our headquarters. Unfortunately, due to the fiscal elements of the federal government system, we've had a couple of years where the government shut down and we couldn't hold the event on campus
Right.
because of the shutdown.
Right.
Unfortunately, there's been continuing resolutions. Most of the town knows about that because they deal with the federal system every day because you live in a community that has a federal facility. But that's been a dilemma for us, you know, to tell families that because a budget agreement wasn't reached in Congress, you're not going to be able to hold a memorial service on the grounds of the National Memorial. So we said we've got to figure that out as well, because October 1st is a new budget year. And so we're at that point this year. We still don't have an approved federal budget for this year. So we're hoping a continuing resolution will get passed and we'll be all right. If not, we'll have to do something else.
Right.
And I got to say, I want to put a plug in for Mount St. Mary's. They have been a phenomenal partner, just like the town of Emmitsburg has been a phenomenal partner in helping us not only with the Memorial Weekend, but when we need those contingencies. And so at least 2 years, we've had to hold the memorial offsite because of the federal shutdown.
Right.
And so as a result of that, we began searching for another date.
Right.
And we figured we didn't want to do the middle summer because we're betting then that it would be blistering hot. We didn't want to compete with some of the other holidays.
Right.
So we looked at May. And it's the first weekend in May. It shouldn't interfere with Mother's Day, which is usually the second Sunday. So we're shooting for that first Sunday in May. So we're going to try that in 2023, see how it goes. And then we'll evaluate if that should be a permanent marker. But we're going to evaluate how that goes. So next year, it'll be in May.
Right. If I was a family visiting Emmitsburg how do I get back to see that the memorial? Is it possible with now that
it is? So of course, due to COVID, everything got shut down, and including the National Emergency Training Center. They canceled classes and they weren't allowing visitors, and some of that was just related to the health concerns. And the big piece is there are people that want to travel and see the memorial. The key, though, because unfortunately or fortunately, it's a federal facility, there are security concerns. Just showing up at the gate doesn't always work depending upon the security levels. So we recommend people contact the foundation, and then we'll provide that information to this front gate. They call it the access list. And that then provides us to go out, escort if need be. But if you just show up at the gate, most likely they're going to search your car, they're going to take your driver's license, and they'll allow you to walk over to the memorial. But you won't be allowed to go into any of the other buildings or any of the other offices because it's a federal facility. So by calling us, we help facilitate that and kind of provide a guided tour. So it is accessible, just you got to go through the steps.
Well, about a month ago, I was with Representative Trone, our district congressman, and we walked around. You showed me things. I've been over there many times that really brought the attention to what the details of what's being honored over there. Could you tell us in a few minutes? I
can talk for hours. So I'm
just what is back there? I mean, that's
Sure.
okay.
So of course, the facility was St. Joseph's College, the
Right.
first Catholic school for women by Elizabeth Seton and Daughters of Charity. But when the federal government bought it, they tore down a lot of the dorm buildings, which was in the center of the complex. So there's an outer circle of buildings. One is the National Fallen Firefighters Memorial Chapel,
Right.
and that is our headquarters. It's a beautiful building from the 1800s that was renovated and completely brought back to the 1900s era. And that's open for people to have time to reflect. The fire administration's offices are there, emergency management offices. But the big piece is in the middle where all those buildings were is what we call the mall area. It's open grass area with a red brick sidewalk that encircles it, that connects the Fallen Firefighters Chapel to the National Fallen Firefighters Memorial Site, which is where we add the names each year, to the 9/11 statue, which is a bronze casting of the 3 firefighters from Ground Zero who raised the flag that day in the rubble of the collapsed towers.
Mm.
And that was donated to the foundation by an artist out of Utah. We have a new addition that's going to be placed. Matter of fact, you got a chance to see it when the congressman was here. There's a program called the Bells of Remembrance. And it was started by a Franciscan monk who wanted to do a program to salvage old church bells that were being recast or melted for the metal. And so he began collecting these bells. So the bell he's given to us that'll go on the Memorial Park weighs 4,800 pounds, all bronze. And it was done by the McShane Bell Company, which is the same bell company that built the bells that are in the chapel steeple. So there's a connection there. And that bell will be on display on the grounds of the Memorial Park and be used during the memorial service when we ring the bell as our tolling of the bells for recognition of a firefighter who's gone home, which is a symbolic piece. You ring the bell 5 times in order to acknowledge that a firefighter has made their last award. So it'll be all part of the program and part of the ceremony. And our plan is to use that for the first time this year.
Wow.
So it'll be pretty cool.
That's pretty, but the brick path is symbolic too. Are there?
Absolutely. So we call the brick walkway the Walk of Honor. And it encircles the mall area and has some cross paths. What we've learned is the best thing to do is let the students walk on the grass. You find out the shortcuts and then pave that. It's the best way to do it. And so we have this brick walkway that we sell bricks. It is a fundraiser for the foundation, more to support the park.
Mhm.
And there are thousands of bricks that have been placed. People can buy a brick in memory of, in honor of, in support of somebody. They can get them on our website at firehero.org, but there are specialty sections as well. The memorial was built in 1981, and the first dedication service was in 82. And so what we wanted to do was find a way to honor firefighters who died before the memorial was built. So we created a section, a Walk of Honor for the pre-81 fallen firefighters. We now have a brick for every firefighter all the way back to Ben Franklin. We did the research, found sponsors to pay for those bricks. And so now every firefighter in the history of the United States that was in an organized department, because Ben created the first fire department in Philly, is in that Walk of Honor. And then, for example, the Daughters of Charity have a section where the alumni of St. Joseph's can buy bricks in recognition of the facility, the connection with the Basilica and Elizabeth Seton's order, Daughters of Charity, and those that attended St. Joseph's College. So there's a lot of avenues for brick participation and the uniqueness of the Walk of Honor.
That's incredible. And the memorial itself, it has the names of firemen.
It does. So the memorial was, like I said, in 81, 82 era, President Reagan dedicated it, and it's got a stone monument in the middle, but encircling it are Pennsylvania field stones built into a marker with a bronze plate. And for each year since the memorial was built, the names of the fallen firefighters are on each bronze plate. And unfortunately, after 9/11, with the 343 firefighters and the 4 fire patrol officers that died, and the 99 other firefighters who died that year, we were concerned about running out of room with those individual markers. So we started a construction project and we put a white stone wall all the way around it, so it is encircled, and that'll hold the names of fallen firefighters for the next 40 years. Long after I'm gone, I
No.
don't have to worry about it then. But we've added some expansion to add spaces for more names. But we're going to continue to work to try to reduce those number of names as well. So it's kind of a balance there.
Last Sunday, on 9/11, the 21st anniversary, I was honored to be a guest at the ceremony in the chapel. It would have been held outside with the rain. It rained, but 8:46, the big time. And looking back on that, how do we keep that in our minds? How important it was in remembering what that is. I mean, are we going to miss something or just take it for granted? I know there's a whole generation that know nothing about this.
That is a piece that I think was in the ultimate wisdom of Senator Sarbanes when he created us, was there needed to be a way to always remember. And federal government has its role, but that isn't part of their charge. So the foundation's mission is to make sure we don't forget. And part of that is with programs such as Light the Night for Fallen Firefighters, Bells of Remembrance, the family support we do, the national memorial programs, and helping states build state memorials as well. One of the things that we take on as well for those states that don't have a fallen firefighters memorial, we'll assist them with that. But all of that is intended to let those families know that their loved one didn't die forgotten. And that's really our charge. And so we try to find programs and activities. For example, our scholarship program has just been named after a Prince George's County firefighter that died back in the 90s, through some corporate partnerships and some caring individuals. We've named a program after a couple fallen firefighters. Communities need to find ways to continue to remember and help those families that had that ultimate sacrifice, that lost oftentimes the breadwinner for the family, or the significant partner of the family, and they're trying to put their lives back together. And so being able to comfortably know their loved one wasn't forgotten is a critical piece. And one of the things we do is we have those families that have been to Emmitsburg previous years come back and greet the new families.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Because the healing for the new families is also healing for the families from previous years. And who better to help them understand the road they're going to be on than somebody who's walked in those same shoes? And so the piece within the fire community is, as you said, there are members of the FDNY, the New York City Fire Department, who weren't even born before 9/11. And so trying to have them understand, comprehend in a very respectful way is part of the efforts as well, of that we will never forget, always remember. And the stair climbs are part of that we do, and some of the other activities are all related on remembering and paying tribute.
You've had President Reagan, President Bush, President Obama. Do you have any expectations for this?
Well, I will say this, because we have extended the invitation. Other than that, I will neither deny or confirm, because I don't want somebody with one of those Secret Service badges coming to talk to me about,
Okay.
I'm just teasing. We extended an invite to all of the federal dignitaries, from the president to our great fire administrator, who's a part of the fire service family and works just across the street. So
Right.
I don't know. We'll never know. We'll know on Sunday, October 8th.
Well, can you tell us about the broadcasting of this? Where
Sure.
does it go? How is it done? And how can people, COVID is over, so the families will be invited in, but the general public will they be able to get in?
So this year, we're going to go back to some public events.
Okay.
We didn't like to have to do that,
Okay.
but we did because of the requirements that were in place for federal systems. You
Okay.
know, we're the tenant, and
Oh,
federal government's a landlord, and it's a great relationship. I don't mean it derogatory in any way, but they have some requirements for federal facilities, and
okay.
one of those was last year was the element of you had to be vaccinated, you know, you had to be go through the testing process, but they wanted us to limit the number of open seats
Mhm.
just from the standpoint of they wanted those checks and balances.
Right.
And so I think this year it'll be a little bit more flexible. What we're going to try to do is do a lot of the check-ins at PNC Arena at
Mm.
the Mount,
Okay.
get some of that traffic and stuff downstream a little bit,
Uh,
and then run shuttles back and forth to get people on campus.
Okay.
But normally the Saturday night candlelight service on the 8th and the Sunday morning memorial service on the 9th will be open to the public for them to attend. So
Okay.
that's what we're working on, those elements. And, you know, right now it looks like the federal system is relaxing some of the COVID requirements. You and I are not wearing masks today, so that's just a sign of the relaxation component.
Right.
I'm fully vaccinated. I had my shots,
Good.
but that's just part of that process. But
Right.
you know, the piece that we do to ensure people can see the memorial is we actually use a satellite link. And so we bring in television grade equipment, multiple cameras, lighting, sound system, and film the entire event and then broadcast it via satellite. So last year we had the satellite broadcast was picked up in 21 different countries across the globe.
Right.
A lot of them are military facilities, you know, U.S. facilities overseas that have military firefighters who wanted to watch the service, because we not only honor the firefighters who are tied to governmental entities like you know, Emmitsburg Fire Department. You know, it's tied to the municipal here of Emmitsburg. I even it's volunteer. I just mean it's tied to a community. We honor military firefighters, which are could be federal or contractor. We honor wildland firefighters, and so our goal is the entire fire service community. It doesn't matter what patch you wear. If you're a firefighter, we're going to honor you. And so we have people that are assigned duties, such as in the military, across the globe that want to be a part of the ceremony because we have military firefighters, for example, at it every year. So we broadcast it live and then we tape it, and then you could watch it later on through the taping process through our website, or DVDs are available as well. So there's just ways to make all that happen.
I know it's very professionally done. It's an excellent thing. You've been the executive director for
21 years now,
and
almost 22.
any plans, or you staying on for?
No, there are plans. So I met with my board of directors at the end of last year and said, look, I'll be honest, I'm 66. I had 24 years in Prince George's County. Great run. 21 and a half years now. I said, I'll give you 2 years, 22, 23. And then it's time to find the next generation to take over.
Mhm.
And so in December of 2023, I'll no longer be a full-time employee of the foundation. We're starting a search process. We're going to do a nationwide search. We're going to bring on a vetting company. We have a search committee made up of board members. So we're going to start our series of meetings and hopefully advertise after the Memorial Weekend. Get through the program first because we got to get that done. And then towards the end of the year, start advertising and start vetting candidates with the goal that somewhere in the first, second quarter of next year, we'll bring the person on, and then we'll parallel for all of 2023. And then I'll probably stay in some kind of advisory role for a little bit after that, just to make sure things are where they want to be. And then I'm going to just relax. And
Kent Island? You gonna stay?
yeah, I'm going to stay on. Yeah, I live on Kent Island. So yes, I'll stay there.
All right.
I'm not ready to move again. I moved here from Pennsylvania to Maryland and love it. I will admit I still have a lot of connections back to Pittsburgh, but
Right.
Maryland's home as well. So I'm just ready to relax, and I'll do some things. I'll probably do some teaching. I like to teach. I was on the faculty at University of Maryland for a while, and maybe do something consulting or something, find something to do.
Are you a Raven fan yet or no?
Well, I'll tell you this story. I had this story just the other day. I grew up 20 miles south of Pittsburgh, diehard Pittsburgh fan. But when I came to Maryland, I started to do the convergence of the Colts.
Oh, okay.
And I started to go to the games and started to buy into it. And then when they did what they did, I said, it's a sign I'm staying with Pittsburgh. So
Right.
that's where I am right now. And I was the fire chief in Prince George's when we built Jack Kent Cooke Stadium
Right.
with the Redskins. I worked with Mr. Cook personally.
Right.
And then Mr. Schneider, had to be honest. I said, sorry, I got burned once. I'm not doing it again. But that's that's sports, and that's kind of fun. But I'll tell you what, I'm involved with the Maryland Fire Service, and a lot of my Maryland buddies wear me out when those two teams play football. Goodness gracious.
That's good. Now that you're in every state, right? Fallen firefighters, you have,
We are.
and anything happens to a family, you're immediately there. And
So the way it works is we have a program called LAST, LAST, Local Assistance State Team. And it's made up of fire service personnel.
right.
And we have a team in every state. And when we get notification of a firefighter fatality, their goal is to be on the ground within 6 hours of the reported death.
Hmm.
So they're there to assist the department, the families, and also to get information for us so that we could prepare
Right.
for when we have to honor that fallen firefighter.
Right.
The program is funded through the Department of Justice and through the Public Safety Officer Benefit Program. That's who provides the federal death benefit.
Right.
And so we help with the paperwork process to get those claims in to DOJ and help make the determination, because unfortunately, not every firefighter death, it may be perceived to be a line of duty, but in the end, it may not get classified as a line of duty
Right.
based upon a variety of circumstances.
Right.
But we try to help with that process. We try to get it to the point where we make sure that everything there to support the case is done.
Hmm.
And we try to get the yes to
Right.
get them approved. But sometimes it doesn't happen always. But it's been a great challenge in the beginning to get that set up, only from the standpoint of we want to be respectful. We're not there to take over. We're not there to be in charge. We're there to support. And we've got that pretty well established now. We're here as a resource. And it makes a world of difference. So the Maryland has a great team that unfortunately has been busy lately. But Pennsylvania, Delaware, they all have teams and they go out and do what they need to do.
That's really special. Really special.
It helps, and that's the problem. And when a department has a line of duty death, the problem is the 911 calls don't stop. There's still somebody still has to get on the trucks and the ambulances every day. And whether it's a career department or a volunteer department, their coworkers are struggling as well because they lost their fellow firefighter.
Mhm.
And so we're there to try to help and deal with that trauma.
That's really something. I have a lot of questions I'd like to ask you. Maybe we'll have you back, but this is a special weekend coming up, and to honor fallen firefighters, and it's really special. And if you can get on the campus there, but you have to be vetted out and a little bit. And I almost would think you might want to take your vaccination cards along just in case. but you can get to watch this, and if you ever want to buy a brick, it's firehero.com. And
Firehero.org, yeah.
.org, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
And I think they're $100 a brick, something like that. And your name could be over there. It's a very special place. Don't get away without being there. And thank you very much, Ron.
Thank you. And I got to say, it's been great neighbors.
I know.
It really has been helpful for all of us. And the relationship with the town of Emmitsburg has been phenomenal. And yes, you put up with those firefighters on that weekend, but at least they're spending money in town. So that's a good thing.
It's perfect. It's wonderful. Well, thank you again, Ron, and have best to you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Take
Appreciate
care.
it.
Take care, everybody.